Mary Ann Bevan was known as the ugliest woman in the world. She had a hormone disease called acromegaly, and this causes the bones in the body to enlarge. As her face started to change, her husband stood by her side, but unexpectedly he passes away. Wanting to provide for her 4 children, Mary entered into a contest for the ugliest woman, where she won first place. The media was drawn to her, paying her small fees to take her photo and write cruel stories about her. Later, she was employed by the Dreamland Circus, where she endured ridicule from the audience. She remained a performer until she passed away at the age of 59. Mary Ann was an amazing mother and truly should be known for having one of the most beautiful souls.
Cheaters have the stares at me.
Part 2 about my psychotic best friend.
Storytime about how I was manipulated by a nurse in a psych ward. When I was 19 years old, I was admitted to a psychiatric ward for women for attempting to unalive myself. Most of the other women there were also there for this reason and for personality disorders. We were long-term patients who were held there against our will for our own safety. Me and some of the other women had our favorite staff members, one of which was a male nurse. He was 35 years old, seemed nice, always had our backs, and would often talk about his son in personal life. This made us all feel comfortable with him. Some days, a group of us would be allowed to go off the premises with a staff member and hang around the town for 2 hours. However, some things weren't allowed, such as using the phone while we were out in case a phone call upset us, or mood-altering drinks such as energy drinks or alcohol. Since our freedom was restricted most of the time, we'd always ask for him to be the one who took us. He would let us buy drinks and go off on our own. He would also let us use a phone to make calls to our family, buy us food and cigarettes. He even drove back the long way so we wouldn't have to be back so soon. At the time, we didn't really know why he would be so nice and lenient because he could lose his job letting us do those things. However, one day out of the blue,
in high school, I really liked this guy. And when I told him I liked him, he said, "I'll put you in the suggestion box." Oh no, but then for Valentine's Day that year, I made him a suggestion box. And inside was a note that said, "Won't you take me out?" The worst part is my mom helped me with that. She even encouraged me, thought it was a good idea. I mean, he did date me. But at what cost?
I, 30 male, pissed my wife, 27 female off, and now she wants me to do everything. To begin, when I met my now wife, she had about $9,000 in credit card debt. She grew up in poverty, got her first credit card, and got into financial trouble with it. She told me about it pretty early on in the serious phase of our relationship, and even told me about her plan to fix it. Showed me her budget and had a time frame. To her credit, she did it. That was 5 years ago. We're now married with twins. She's a stay-at-home mom, but receives about $1,000 per month in VA disability and cleans houses part-time while our kids are in school. The $1,000 goes entirely to our mortgage, plus some of the money that she makes cleaning houses because she likes to put extra on the principal. So she has her own spending money. We do have one credit card, mine, of which she is an authorized user. I do stay vigilant about the card because I guess I never really let myself trust her with money. On to the problem. I noticed earlier this week, after years of good financial decisions and fiscal responsibility on her part, that the credit card seemed higher than normal. My wife hadn't mentioned anything, and I hadn't seen anything expensive coming into the house.
I'm 19 and my parents are in their 50s. For as long as I can remember, I've been allergic to things like dairy, wheat, flour, gluten, and legumes. Since I was a young child, my parents have completely kept all of them out of the house. While other kids ate breakfast cereals, I ate fish and assorted pickled vegetables for breakfast. While other kids had Lunchables, I had grilled chicken or fish with, again, assorted vegetables. While other kids ate birthday cake at a birthday party, I had an apple. I never questioned this until a couple months ago. I was at my aunt's house for my birthday party and she made brownies for everyone. For me, she took great steps to make them with almond flour and avoided all my allergies. I started eating them and thought little of it until my aunt suddenly looked at me and, in a panicked way, asked me which plate I took the brownies from. I pointed from the one where I got my brownies and she immediately stood up and told me we had to go get my EpiPen. She raised to ask my mom for it and I sat there scared out of my mind because I had never mistakenly eaten flour before. I noticed my mother calmed her down and then she said that we don't have to worry because she has—
What are you willing to do to stay young forever? Once there was a beautiful Malaysian woman, but she was never quite satisfied with her appearance. So she decided to go to a shaman who told her that through black magic and rituals, she could be young and beautiful forever. He gave her a potion to drink and told her that she couldn't look in the mirror for 30 days. However, this woman was curious. Every time she touched her face, she could feel her wrinkles disappearing. Everyone she met told her that she looked great. So on the 29th day, her curiosity was too much, so she took a glimpse of herself in the mirror. The mirror instantly cracked and so did her face. She turned into a horrible monster, all because of her curiosity. So she went back to the shaman, hoping that he could help her reverse this terrible mistake. But he said that she can only reverse her looks if she drank the blood of the young. And if she didn't do that, then she would have to live as a monster for the rest of her life. Legend says that she's still out there somewhere, roaming around looking for her next target, all so that she can be young and beautiful again.
Storytime about why my mom kicked me out when I was 16. So a little background information. This had all started as soon as my dad left my mom and I. I was like 13 around the time. Well, ever since then, my mom would have different guys in and out of the house all the time. Like, we were lucky if a month went by and she was still with the same dude. Which, I mean, I kind of get it because my dad did leave us for a woman that he had started another family with. But at the same time, it was just a whole mess. Anyway, so she had got with this new guy and we're gonna call him Tyler. And by the way, the dudes that she would date, they would literally live at our house. Anyway, so a week after he moved in, I started getting really close to him, which usually never happens. Usually I would try to keep my distance because I knew how wrong it was of her having all these different guys in the house when I'm only 16. Anyways, every time that my mom would go to work, he would invite me to go see a movie and he would just be really flirty with me. And he was only 6 years older than me. And my mom was 32. You do the math anyways, like...
This man thought he got away with something terrible he did as a kid, but he was wrong. Wunser was a rich businessman. Let's just call him Derek. Derek was walking home from work when a boy ran up to him and started pulling on his suit. He said, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek shouted, "Leave me alone," and walked away. The boy was left outside freezing in the cold. The next day, the same boy was standing on the street and said, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek was annoyed. He threw a penny at him and said, "Here, there you go, now leave me alone." But he could have never known who this boy actually was. This time, when he got home, he started feeling uneasy. Something about these interactions felt a bit weird to him. He went to bed, tried to fall asleep, but as soon as he closed his eyes, he heard a voice right up against his ear say, "Mister, give me 1 penny." Derek jumped out of bed. His wife told him to calm down, so he tried to. There was no one else in the room, but something was wrong. Derek began to remember what he did. When he was a young boy, him and his friends had done something horrible. Terrified, he went up to the attic and found his old yearbook. Then, flipping through the pages, he saw a photo. Derek thought, how was this possible? He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Follow for part 2.
I was a product of an affair between my mom and dad. My mom was already married and had a 1-year-old daughter. She wanted to abort me, but my dad begged her and paid her a hefty sum. She signed over all rights and I didn't see her for my 14 years of life. She recently contacted my dad saying she wanted to get to know me better, and he said it's entirely up to me. I was skeptical but decided to meet her. I've been talking to my mom's side for about 2 months when at a family gathering they all sat me down and said the reason they contacted me was because my half-sister was having kidney failure and was basically dying. At a loss for words, I got up and left. Told my dad, and he said it's entirely up to me, but I should get tested just to see before I make my decision. So I did. When my mom found out, she thought this was me agreeing and told everyone the good news. I did a lot of thinking and I decided I would not be donating my kidney. This family had done nothing for me. The only reason they tried to get in contact was for my kidney. So I don't want anything to do with them. I got loads of hateful calls and messages, but decided to stand by my decision. My stepsister called me and said I'm a douche for giving her false hope. People are saying I'm wrong because I can save a life. My stepsister did nothing wrong. But I feel so used. Am I wrong for blowing up at my dad for asking me to pay for a family dinner? I, 27 male, lost my mom at 15 in a road accident. I was a fairly airheaded kid in school and was great academically. My dad, 48 male, remarried to Isabel 10 months later for my care. The 2 years after my mom's passing were extremely hard on me. Isabel was temperamental with me, sometimes nice or almost ignoring me. She had a son who was 2 years older. We practically had no relationship as he moved for college around the time they got married. When I was 17, I was going through old pictures. I ran into some domestic pictures of Isabel and my dad. I realized many of them were from Seattle. Only time my dad was there was when he had been working on site for weeks the year before my mom died. There had been a fight between my parents about the on-sites not bringing the family extra money. I realized that my dad was probably cheating on my mom with Isabel prior to her death. I don't know if my mom knew this, though I think so. I kept it quiet because Isabel was pregnant with my stepsister at this time. I found out later that year that my mom had left me as her sole inheritor, which was quite some money. Her parents' inheritance money and 50% of the house. This had helped.
Am I the asshole for refusing to go to a party that was planned for me? Like most women, I had spent years fantasizing about my wedding day. So when my fiance asked me to marry him last year, I was over the moon. I spent hundreds of hours planning and arranging our perfect day.
Aww.
Little did I know that my fiance and his best man had arranged a prank. So when it came down to anyone objecting the wedding, the best man stood up and says he objected. Anyone who knows anything about weddings knows that regardless if it was a joke or not, the wedding cannot go forward if objected. So despite the best man and my fiance saying that it was a prank, we could not get married yesterday as intended. I was devastated, as all that money was now out the window and non-refundable.
Oh, no.
My soon-to-be sister-in-law had arranged an after-party at her place for us. Instead of me going, I walked down the aisle to the door by myself and took off from complete embarrassment.
Story time about my psychotic best friend. Like for part 2. Part 2 about my psychotic best friend. So like I